Hey there, my name is Matthew Kyle Levine. I'm the writer-director of On the Phone. It's a absurdist little horror film about influencers, social media influencers.
Amazing. How's it absurd?
Well, I think social media influencing generally is an absurd thing. It's kind of crazy to want to just keep putting yourself online, exposing your private life to, the world. It's kind of something that it has only become normalized now. When I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it would be strange to want to proclaim this is what I had for breakfast or anything like that. Well, the idea is that they're a couple and they're heading upstate and they're doing a sponsored ad. So they're doing like they have a little dog and they're doing a little dog food commercial. And so they're going here, they're going there, they're playing fetch with the dog, they're doing this and that. But the whole way through, they're getting closer and closer to the girl's mother's house. And then when they finally get to the mother's house, they find that she's a hoarder. So she has like clothes everywhere, furniture piled up high everywhere, like it looks like a mess, but they overlook that all to try to involve the mother in the sponsored ad because the requirements are to have like a wholesome family element. So even though the mother's like a mute and she's a hoarder and she's out of her mind, they're still kind of forcing her to like play fetch with the dog and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of is a over exaggerated
Yeah.
story about people that are trying to force their family and their friends and whatever into their social media world, all just to make content, which is in a way to make money. So it's a little bit about the, obsession with greed and stuff like that.
What influenced your story?
Well, so I run a production company. So we do short films, we do music videos, we do documentaries for all sorts of people, but we also do social media content. So we have influencer clients. And there was a moment where one of my clients was like, hey, you should film me at the hospital with my mother who's dying. And maybe it'll be really emotional and we'll get a lot of engagement because maybe I'll be crying and all that stuff. And I realized how detached he was from his own situation, and he wanted to turn his situation into something that was marketable, basically making his own life a spectacle instead of worrying about his actual family.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a light bulb moment for me where I realized it's an addiction like drugs or alcohol, but it has a different element to it where you're actually willing to change your identity and turn your identity into a brand, which is in a way I think suffocating for some people. But some people feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel where they'll get fame or anything like
Yeah.
that. And so it kind of creates this interesting dichotomy of like what I want and what I'm willing to do for what I want versus sacrificing my own life and my own situation.
Where did you shoot?
We shot in upstate New York. So
Okay.
like I lived in Brooklyn for like 3 years. Then when COVID hit, I started getting way more editing work than shooting work. So I was like, I don't need to be spending these high prices of living in New York City. So I found a place that's like an hour outside of the city, and then I started realizing that there's such a difference in the way people think in terms of the country and the city. In the city, everyone's so driven by fame and money, and in the country, it's almost like people are like living 10 years ago. They're more wholesome. They're more kind of about their immediate family. And I realized that if I made a story of two characters that lived in the city where I lived, and they come upstate to visit her mother, and she kind of has this experience of like, this is so strange to realize that life isn't all about the phone, it would create an interesting kind of shocking parallel to her
Definitely.
life. Yeah.
How did you find your locations?
Well, firstly, we needed a barn. The idea was that it's like a ranch house, so we first had to just go on Airbnb and just see like what would work for this story. And when we found what we were looking for, we kind of based everything around that. So like we had this one house location, then we filmed all around the woods, and then we kind of just went out and scouted to see like what works and what doesn't in that area. It's just like typical location scouting. It took like 2 days to do it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's very quick.
Oh, so yeah, it's super exciting. I've always wanted to shoot on 16 millimeter, and this was the first time that we filmed on film. It's a way more expensive process. Like you have to not only buy the film and every minute counts, but you also have to pay for processing and all that stuff. But it creates a more alert. There's more of a sense of alertness on set. And we can't do a million takes. It's like every take counts. So there
Exactly.
was a lot more rehearsing, and even though there was a little less improvising than I think I'm used to, we got a much more defined product
Yeah.
because we knew what we were doing, and we knew that we couldn't stray too much from that. So there was a lot of conversations about like what this is, way more than usual. With digital, I find that I'd get on set when I made any of my previous movies, and it was a lot of improvisation and just feeling like, oh, well, what do you think this character would do? Why don't you try it this way? Why don't you try it that way? And film kind of allowed us to hone in and really just do something that was more set in stone. And I think it allowed for the product to be a little bit more, I don't know, like just a little more defined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you want to shoot on film?
I think that just ever since I was a kid, every movie I loved. Like my favorite movie is Panic in Needle Park. It's like a very gritty New York City drug drama. It's grainy. It feels raw. It
Yeah.
feels more organic. There's something about film where even if you have like a still image, there's still grain. So it has this kind of movement to it that keeps it very alive. And I've just always found the aesthetic of it to be, just incredible looking. And I always had the dream that one day I would shoot on film. And there was a specific idea, I think, that we were working with shooting on film. We wanted the movie to almost feel like, even though it's about a modern topic, it's about influencers, we wanted it to feel like it's an older movie, like from the 70s, like dug up from a time capsule. Almost like it was an older movie from the 70s predicting a dystopian future to make today feel strange, almost like it's like a Twilight Zone episode. Funny, kind of interesting story. It was very bright and sunny for this moment where a character was feeling a little. I think she was still feeling anxious, but as the scene progressed, she got more anxious and more horrified, and clouds came in, and the whole scene darkened while she was talking and while she was delivering this monologue. And it was literally at a moment where she was like looking this way, and then she turned her head, and then everything darkened, and so it heightened that one line where she turned her head.
Incredible.
And that kind of thing, you at first go, "This is a mistake," and then you're kind of like, "No, wait a minute, this works so well for the story," and it creates an interesting dynamic, almost like it's like a lighting trick. So then we kept it in the movie.
Happy mistake.
Exactly, yeah. And there was a moment too where a plane was flying overhead, and normally, the sound person goes, stop, the plane's flying, let's not record right now because it's going to ruin whatever.
Yeah.
But we were so deep in the monologue, and I was like, all right, we probably won't use this take. But then when we heard it in editing, the whir of the plane kind of created almost like a score-like tension for the scene, and then we used that too. And so everything it gave it like this migraine effect to the whole thing. A longer version of this, but we're veering, instead of into the themes of influencers, we're going into like AI.
Okay.
So the main character is an actress who is fearing losing her job due to AI.
Yeah.
So she's going, auditioning for roles, and they're in advance asking, would you be willing to sign away your likeness so that we could use it for other. It's like a big topic right now, a big issue where, actors are signing away their likeness, and then all of a sudden they're popping up as extras in another movie or whatever. But then it's like they paid one time and they just get to keep using that. So it's about an actress who's dealing with that. She meets a young man who convinces her to run away from everything, and they kind of fall in love, and they go to this cult that the young man is building, only to find, this is like kind of the twist that makes it all kind of bookended, that the cult itself worships AI, but she only finds that out when she's there. So it's like she can't get away from it. And so, yeah, it's like we're thinking we're going to use the same actors, and we actually have Eric Roberts, who's really interested in playing a father character. Yeah, Julia Roberts' brother, so that's really cool. He saw this film and was like, I'd love to be involved in something. And we have Ben Stiller's cousin as well, Matthew Zeno. He's a producer on it too. So yeah, so we're getting more and more people involved, and we're actually doing the festival run to hopefully get funding to get the movie made. Writing is an interesting thing where I feel like there's like a whole year-long process where you're just waiting for the story to come to you. And I don't like to actually write until I feel like I can see the whole thing in my head first, or at least more like the mood and the tone and the characters. Then I like to do like an index card thing where like I put index cards on the floor and I'm like, okay, well I know this scene has to happen before this scene. Yeah. So then we have 2 index cards, we know the order of them. Then I come up with another scene that I've had in my head for a while and I'm like, well this would have to go in between. And so you split the index cards, you put it in between, and then next thing you know you have like, 20, 25 index cards. It's like I heard an interview that David Lynch did that. So I was like, I gotta start, he's like an idol of mine. He's everybody's idol,
So cool.
Yeah, so like I wanted to follow that, structuring, and then that really worked because you don't feel like you have to labor over what about this line or like how should I say this happens. This is just a blank, very like one sentence thing of like that's what this scene is. Then you can move on and you can get the structure before you have to worry about the nitty gritty details.